Thank you guys very much. All right, so now on to the comedy. So John Branyan Shakespeare's version of The Three Little Pigs has been viewed by millions of times, and his book, A Trying Tale of Diminutive Swine, is in its third reprinting. I actually own the book, and it is quite funny, so if you want to see it, find me later. But John has been featured on 9 different recorded comedy projects with people like Ken Davis, David Jeremiah, Ken Cunningham, and Tim Hawkins. John and his wife Lori have 4 children and 6 grandchildren so far. Hoping for more?
We actually only have 4, so we've got 2 more on the way.
2 more on the way. All right.
6 in total, but that's
I took it from your website. People didn't invent laughter, John says. It was given to us by someone who knew we'd enjoy it, and he never gets tired of sharing this gift with others. Every show, my goal is to hurt people. Seriously, I want people's jaws to ache, I want their sides to cramp up, and I want them to experience dizziness from oxygen deprivation. I'm experiencing it now. When they are in pain, I have done my job. So when he isn't speaking or teaching, he's playing board games with his family. So please give a, I know, right? Please give a warm welcome to Mr. John Branyan.
so much. There goes Ben. Keep it going for Ben. He's got a master's degree writing on this. He's trusting his educational future to me. Bad idea, Ben. Well, here we are in Warsaw, Indiana. Dreams come true, don't they? Dreams come true. I was in Iowa a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, it'll never get more remote than this, and ta-da! Here we are. I actually live in Kokomo. I alienated half the room with that announcement for some reason. Kokomo. And I grew up going to Lake Barbie. My grandparents had a cottage on Lake Barbie. I don't know if there's any other lake people here. Any of you lake rats like me? Okay. We'll talk about you later. Good job getting the Christmas decorations taken down. All right, well, I have a pretty simple philosophy. I think we take ourselves too seriously in life. Do you agree with that, fellow Hoosiers? That we just, everybody is so thin-skinned now in culture. Everybody is so tolerant of everybody except the people who are not tolerant. That we've lost our sense of humor. I mean, we can't laugh about things anymore. And at no time is that more apparent to me than when I leave the state of Indiana and go to other places and tell people where I'm from. Like on the East Coast and the West Coast, they're the worst. Now, I don't know if do we have any California people here? Any transplants from California before I go too far? No? One guy way in the back? Okay. Are you from Cal? Do you live here now? Yes. A long time ago. Okay. You're forgiven. All right, so just one. I hate those people. They're just the worst people in the world. The California people. They think they're all that and a bag of chips. They find out where I live. They say stuff to me like, "Oh, you're from Indiana? Why?" Out here on the West Coast, we have everything. We got sunshine and sand. We got surfing, beaches. We have Hollywood. What do you have? Like, well, we have all of your food. You need a bucket of that sand, surfer boy. I got a brochure in the mail from Napa Valley, California. And Napa Valley, of course, famous for wine. You guys in Warsaw got the same brochure, I guess. They wanted me to come to Napa Valley, spend my whole vacation touring the vineyards. That's what the whole brochure was about. come to Napa Valley and tour the vineyards. Walk the path where Ernest and Julio Gallo have walked. See the wine presses in operation. A vineyard is just a fancy word for a grape farm. That's all it is. We've seen a lot of farms, haven't we? We ought to send them brochures out on the West Coast. Why don't y'all come to Indiana and look at our corn yards? Walk the path where Orville and Gary Redenbacher have walked. Watch our natives detassel. Totally going to kick that over before this is done. Nobody used the dance floor, I noticed. Not yet. After this, we're going to get up and cut it up, aren't we, Eric? And I think church people should set the bar for the rest of the world and show them how to laugh. Do you agree with that, church people? We got any church people here tonight? You guys, church attenders? Not 100% of the room? Okay. Welcome, heathen. You're welcome here. You don't have to put on any airs. But I get this question. I travel around and do comedy in lots of different places. Believe it or not, sometimes I have to leave. I can't make a living like just in Warsaw. I have to go to more exotic locales, like Muncie. But I do cruise ships, and I go to comedy clubs and colleges. I do corporate events. I do all over the place. And church. Church is where I do comedy from time to time. And church people are the only people that ever ask me this question. Church people. Somebody will come up after a show, and they will say, do you think God has a sense of humor? Do you think God has a sense of humor? Well, I think he made church people. Well, of course he has a sense of humor. Where did we get it? We didn't think of laughter. It wasn't our idea. That was given to us by a person who had a bigger mind, a better mind, who knew we were going to need it. A better mind that gave us laughter as a gift, as a weapon to get through the tough times, because he knew that life was going to be hard. We were going to have struggles. We were going to have trials. We were going to get married. He knew stuff was going to happen. And we were going to need laughter in order to get through it. And when we take ourselves so seriously, we lose it. We lose sight of laughter. It's so important that God manifests that gift of laughter in every single one of you. God puts something stupid in every single one of you that the rest of the world is supposed to laugh at. So when you cover up your stupidity, you are robbing people of a blessing from God. That is called a sin, non-church people. I think we should set the bar for the rest of the world. I think we should show them. You got to start with yourself. You got to first start by noticing our own stupidity, church people, because it's in us. It's there. Rather than fighting about it, rather than getting offended when people laugh, you just embrace it. Admit it. We say things in church that should be laughed at. We say stuff like, we're just here to introduce people to Jesus. We just want to introduce people to Jesus. And Jesus already knows everybody, doesn't he? Like, I know how many hairs you have on your head, but I am not good with names. I heard a preacher say, God is moving here. God is moving here. I thought, wow, this must be a nice neighborhood. Your property value is going to go through the roof, my friend. Imagine what it'd be like having God as a neighbor. I feel like he's always watching me. Privacy fence is doing nothing. This nice lady in church walked up to me a couple of weeks ago. Really sweet lady. And she walks up, she says, John, God is not finished with you yet. I think she's probably right, but I do think he's done making improvements. I turned 50 a couple of years ago, and things are still changing, but they're not getting better anymore. It's like God is looking down from heaven every morning. All right, I'm not done with John yet. What can we do? I know, we'll push the veins in his legs a little closer to the surface. So when he wears shorts, it looks like an aerial map of Argentina. We'll take the hair off the top and just jam it in his ears. We'll shove some up his nose, too. Why not? Got 2 little car washes swinging down there. You get that one long one that grows straight out. You know what I'm talking about? You can't see it in the mirror because it's coming right at you. Everything looks great in the mirror. It just gets longer and longer. I didn't even know it was there until the guy sitting in front of me at church started going like this. Then you pull it out, and it's connected to every nerve in your body. So I had another experience that I was on the bubble as to whether or not I was going to share this with you guys tonight, but I'm going to go ahead and do it because I feel like we're all friends here now. I feel like our relationship can withstand this. All right, I got this at a church actually in northern Indiana a couple of years ago. It was inside the church building, was this sign, and it was on that little room. It was on a table in that room that you go through before you get into the main sanctuary. What do you guys call that room? What?
Narthex.
The narthex. That's what they called it too, the narthex. I was like, I thought the narthex were hunted to extinction like 100 years ago. Remember when the herds of narthex used to roam across Indiana? We would trap them down and kill them for their pelts. Big coats. Is that narthex? No, it's imitation vestibule. That's a great joke. I just thought that up. So this sign, I am not kidding, this sign was inside the church in the narthex on a table. You can see it in the back. I'll show it to you afterwards. It's the official bra drop-off location. Am I the only one intrigued at all by this sign? I was thinking back to all the unofficial places that people have dropped off bras in church over the years. What happened to those? If I was an atheist, I would go to this church. Right? Just to see what their choir looks like on Sunday. Gotta pay attention. Gotta quit taking ourselves so seriously. One of the things that we do is we get annoyed when people can't remember our names. You know, and I think we fixate on names in this culture. It's important to us that people remember my name. People gotta remember my name, because if you don't remember a person's name, it means you don't care about them, right? Most of you guys can't remember my name now, can you? Of course not. Don't worry about it. It doesn't bother me. I don't expect people to remember my name, because it's dumb when we lead with that. The first thing we tell people is our name. Hey, I'm so-and-so, and we're not gonna remember that. What we should do is tell people the most interesting thing about ourselves, and then let them decide whether or not they want to know what our name is. Right? You know? Like, hey, you walk up to people and name tags would be the place to do it. You know, get a name tag that says, hello, I once fought off a pack of wolves with a spork. I would want to know that guy's name. You know, hello, I'm lactose intolerant. I'm going to talk to the wolf guy. So we've got to quit being annoyed when people are, forget our names, And we've also got to quit being annoyed and expecting that people are not going to be interested in the really stupid things about us. That's what really interests people, is the stupid things that we do. Not the times when we're successful. You know, I've got a lot of friends that live in this deluded idea that people want to see them at their best. You know, I just want people to see me at my best. I just really want people to see me at my best. I got news for you. We do not want to see you at your best. We want to see you fall down the stairs. That's what we want to see. We don't want to see you get a trophy. We want to see you get hit in the crotch with a football. That will get the YouTube videos. That'll get the views. I've got you've all done this at some point. You've been driving down the road, right? You pass a semi-truck, you lean towards the window and go, that is fairly stupid. Have you ever had a semi-truck pass you and go, it's the only thing we do that with, too. You never pass a construction zone and look at those guys and go, just embrace it. Embrace all of the stupidity, let it out. Notice your own stupidity and then share it with the people that you love. That's how it has to start. They deserve it. That's what relationships are founded on. Relationships are founded on sharing our stupidity with the people that we love. You know, not the strangers. We're so worried about what strangers think of us. You know, who cares what strangers think of us? Just have fun with strangers. You're never going to see those people again. You know, we've got this idea, we've got these expectations in relationships that are just unrealistic. Because everybody has a relationship with every other person on the planet. You know? We talk about relationships like, well, relationships are so important. Relationships are so important. We have this one singular idea of what a relationship is and what makes it important. We all have a relationship in here right now. So far, it's going okay. Relationship is I hold a microphone and try to be semi-interesting. You guys don't throw stuff. The relationship's going pretty well. But we have this expectation about relationships, you know, when we get close to people, that suddenly there's certain things that we're supposed to get from a relationship, just kind of automatically, you know. And we don't put that pressure on strangers. You know, post office relationships. You stand in line with people at the post office, you have a relationship with those people. You are all simultaneously in the post office together. But you don't just suddenly blurt out in the middle of the line, I am unfulfilled and you people are not helping me. Because that would be weird. That's what we do with the people that are closest to us, though. So I think the first thing we need to do is get comfortable with our own stupidity, because we all have it, and it's beautiful, and it's glorious. And when you have the idea that you are going to bless people with laughter by allowing them to laugh at you, all of your relationships become richer and deeper and more colorful and lots more interesting. I was kicking around online a little while back, and I found a town in Arkansas. Do you guys have the internet here? Yes? 1, 2? Okay, evidently not. It's coming. When it gets here, the internet, you are going to be blown away. It's in Silver Lake right now, but it's on the way north. It'll be here. So the internet, found a town in Arkansas online. Name of the town is spelled Flippin. I would move there, because everything is funny at that point. Hey, I'm John, and I'm from Flippin, Arkansas. My family and I are at the Flippin Church of Christ every Sunday morning. I graduated from Flippin High School. Where's my Flippin diploma? Go Birds. I don't know what they're called. I have no idea. We can agree, can't we? If it is anything other than birds, that is a huge mistake. That is a missed opportunity. The reason I bring it up is it is a real place. You can go to their flippin' website. And you will discover that they have no idea that they're hilarious. It's kind of sad, actually. Their website is serious information about their Board of Education, their Chamber of Commerce. There is a picture of a squad car on the website. It says on the side of the car, flippin' police. How do you miss something like that? How do they keep a straight face in an emergency? Somebody call the flippin' cops! No idea. It's right there in front of them. And that's the thing. Comedy is right there in front of us all the time. Laughter is right there in front of us all the time. God put it there. God made us. He could have made us any way He wanted. Did you know that? He could have made people any way He wanted to. And He did this. Look at your neighbor. He could have done anything. I know. That's what He did. There's a reason for that. So we won't take ourselves too seriously. We are going to do something, you are going to do something that is going to be funny whether you want to or not. It will come out of you. It is deeply ingrained. It's in your DNA. It's in your biology. It will happen. Eventually, you will do something hilarious. You will sneeze. There's no cool way to sneeze. Sneezes are fantastic. They fall into several categories. There's people like me. You always know when I'm about to sneeze because there's a big crescendo Shakespearean performance in front of it. I'm like, then it's gone. It just disappears. And I feel a little bit ripped off. But then I got a friend of mine that there is no warning when he sneezes. You're in the middle of a conversation. And you ever been driving? You ever been driving and the sun hits your eyes? When you're driving, the sun hits you in the eyes and makes you have to sneeze because of science. Science does that. And the person sitting next to you has no idea what's going on, right? So all they see is this. Ah, my sister Bonnie, when she sneezes, there's a big, and it's usually girls. It's usually girls that do this. There's a big buildup. She goes, ah, 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 ah. That cannot be good for you, ladies. You can't have ah without chew. That has to go somewhere. It's going to wind up on your thighs. That is not cellulite. That's just unreleased chew. You ever done this on Sunday morning? You don't have time for breakfast, so you race out the door to church, settle down in your seat. About the time the minister gets up to preach, it's dead quiet in the room. You're sitting there. I think that's the Holy Spirit moving. The Holy Spirit sounds like that. You ever been in church or any place where you have to be quiet? Any place, like during a test at school? You ever choke on your own spit? You ever done that? Pray for me. absolutely, nosebleed. For no reason, just, come on. A lot of people would pray for me. I don't even know why I told you that, but it just doesn't. You ever had a nosebleed in church? Anybody else ever done that? No? Those people don't go here anymore? Farts are funny. I know, some of you disagree, I can tell. Some of you are like, no, they're not. And with all due respect to you proper people, you're wrong. They're proof that God has a sense of humor. They're not just funny, they're divinely funny. They are. It takes the mind of God to come up with that perfect, universal punchline. They require no setup. You don't have to speak the language. And no matter how many times you have heard it before, you still laugh. Genius. I picture God up in heaven after he made man. He's kind of proud of himself, right? Brings the angels over. Hey, come here, look at this. I made this. It's man. Now, from time to time, gas will build up and have to come out. I could have had it float out through his pores like I did with the plants, but I had a better idea. Check this out. That is hysterical. What's that smell? I know, I thought that up too. That's so deaf people can appreciate it. Well, Jesus went around with 12 fishermen. Fishermen! You think they were sitting around campfires? Oh, excuse me. No. James and John were called the sons of thunder. Theology. So we've got to be the people that aren't afraid to have other people laugh at us, because there's humor. There's humor everywhere. Any person in this room could swap places with me, and you could tell funny stories. The difference between you and me is I just pay attention to what's going on in my life, and you probably don't. But you have comedy happening right underneath your nose. We do. I'll go first since I have the microphone, and then we'll pass it around, and you can all share your stupidest moments with the group out of fairness. I buy things from infomercials. I don't care. We're all friends here now. But I don't do it just willy-nilly. I have a plan for it. The plan is, if your infomercial entertains me, I will buy your product. I do not care what it is. Now, some of you ladies have bought this product that I'm about to describe, and you didn't do it because you had a plan. You bought it for a man in your life. You bought it for a man with the best of intentions. You wanted to demonstrate affection, so you bought him a Snuggie. I will say this on behalf of that man. He did not want it. No man wants anything called a Snuggie, because it's called a Snuggie. And they make camouflage Snuggies now. I don't know who that's for. The guy in the duck blind, hand me my shotgun and my Snuggie. But the reason I bought a Snuggie is because of the half-hour infomercial that they advertise it with. It is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, I'll describe it in perfect detail. They have a lady sitting on one end of a couch, and she's got a blanket, okay? And the phone starts to ring on a table at the other end of the couch. And she is trying to cover up with the blanket and answer the phone at the same time. And the announcer's talking, "Are you tired of struggling with those blankets?" If you are having trouble operating a blanket, you are going to get that Snuggie on backwards. That's called a robe. It's cheaper. I bought our last vacuum cleaner from an infomercial. And it's the world's most powerful vacuum cleaner. That's what they said on the infomercial. Those people have no reason to lie. This infomercial is on at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's when all the really good vacuum shows are on. You can't catch them on prime time. You have to stay up late like me and commit. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm glued to the television set, and they're running this vacuum all over the studio. And the guy's talking about it. This is the world's most powerful vacuum. Look at the job it does picking up these quarters. There's a stack of quarters on the floor, and they're just sucking them up, and I'm at home going, yes! We've got so much money laying around on the carpet. We have nothing to get cash out of the shag. Until now. They picked up a bowling ball with the vacuum cleaner. I've been using those 3 holes in the top of mine. Like an animal. Those days are over. And have you noticed that no matter how powerful your vacuum cleaner is when you're using it, there's always one little piece of white fuzz on the carpet, and you're like, if that had been a bowling ball, I'd have got it. Our vacuum cleaner has a flashlight, or has a headlight on the front of it. Vacuum cleaner has a headlight right on the front of it. I don't know what that's for. My wife was kind enough to explain it, because I had no idea what you need a. I don't know who in the universe goes, when the sun goes down, then we vacuum. So my wife said, no, John, that light is there because you can't see dirt in the dark corners. Then why are we vacuuming it? Wouldn't it be simpler to make sure a company just doesn't bring flashlights over to the house? Save that money. And I have, I'm convinced that marriage itself, which is the foundation of the family, is also proof that God has a sense of humor. I mean, I think he was trying to tell us something when he came up with the ludicrous, preposterous idea of marriage, which is a man and a woman, 2 people with entirely different sensibilities, different motivations, different emotional levels, different ways of processing information. And he said, I am going to make them one. Started with man first, and then he took a rib from that man and made woman. And clearly that was the rib that we used to use to read minds. She can and we can't, right? It's a stark difference. They're completely different people. We've got this weird idea in culture now that relationships are compatibility means that we like the same things and do the same things and occupy the same space at the same time doing the same. That's not compatibility. That's really kind of boring, actually. I think compatibility is like jigsaw puzzle pieces. They may not look anything at all alike, but they fit together and complete the whole picture. You know, that's compatibility. So we need to quit expecting each other to look and sound and act exactly like I do. You know, who wants to watch that anyway? You know, that's who are the normal people? We talk about normal relationships. Why can't we just be like normal people? Do you know any normal people? I don't. I don't want to know normal people. See that on the name tag. Hello, I'm normal. It's like, I'm going to go talk to lactose intolerant guy. I talk to normal people. I talk to messed up people. They've got the most interesting stories to tell. You know, my wife and I are not compatible. We are not compatible the way it's understood. There are things that are super, super important to my wife that I do not care about at all. Stuff like conversation. Sharing. The reason my wife likes conversation is because she's good at it. She's like a black belt. She's a ninja conversationalist. She can set up conversations with anyone, anywhere, anytime. Stop. We went out to eat a little while back, and this couple walks past the table. A couple we've never seen them before in our lives. My wife looks up from the table and goes, "Oh, I love that jacket. Is that Neiman Marcus?" "It is Neiman Marcus. How'd you know?" "I saw it in the catalog. Where'd you get it?" "I got it in New York." "What'd you go to New York for?" "My sister and husband live in New York." "Yes, they have kids, yeah. You have pictures? Pictures!" The phone will ring at our house. Lori will scoop it up out of the cradle. "Hello? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. It's all right. All right, sweetie. Hey, next week, you want to get together? Okay. Yeah, we'll have breakfast. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, I'll call you. I'll see you then. I love you too. Bye-bye." "Who was that?" "Wrong number." I've only known one guy in my life who could sort of, kind of, keep up with the woman in his life. And that was my great-grandfather, great-grandpa Frank. Now, my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother, Mamie, were married for 70 years. 70 years with the same person. And so after all of that time, he had paid attention. He had watched. He had observed. He had learned. And he had developed a sort of a rhythm that they had fallen into. You know, you can see my grandfather, my great-grandfather, after 70 years, you know, maybe would be talking, and he had fallen into her rhythm. And he knew that eventually she was going to have to breathe. And that is when he would say stuff. That's the relationship. Like, maybe would say things to us boys like, "Boys, don't put your finger in your nose. Don't put your finger in your nose." And he'd be behind her and say, "If you're not supposed to put your finger in your nose, why does it fit?" Learned a lot. The thing about communication is that it happens in different ways. It's not necessarily always just talking to each other, but communication happens when you sort of get on each other's frequency, you know, get on each other's wavelength. And it doesn't happen automatically. That's the thing. You know, we talk about those expectations that we have for each other. When we get married, we expect the other person to somehow connect with us the way we expect them to connect with us. And if they don't do that, it means that they don't care. That's what we infer. That's not necessarily true. We're married to, or we are related to, we're all related to each other on the planet. You know? And we've got to be in tune to who that other person is, not who we want that other person to be. That's when relationships start to be fulfilling. When you can be who you are, and the other person will accept you. May not necessarily approve, but they will accept you. We had a conversation after we got married. My wife and I have been married for 30 years. 32 years now. And I've learned over those 32 years that the primary thing that I've learned over 32 years is that I have not learned a single thing in 32 years of marriage. That's the one thing that I know for sure, is that I don't know anything. And I thought I would. You know, I thought that if you stay with it, eventually this knowledge would sort of seep in. And it hasn't. I cannot answer any questions now better than I could when I first got married. But here's the thing. My wife hasn't learned anything either. Because I am a guy who cannot answer a single question, and she continues to ask me questions. So which of us is the bigger dummy? That's the debate. For example, she still continues to ask me questions that no man on earth has ever been able to answer. Not just me. I I'm talking about all of the male human species. None of us have ever been able to answer this question, because it's a woman question. It's a girl question. It's outside of our scope of understanding. It's deep. It's profound. It's philosophical. Questions like, what are you thinking? I'm a guy. I'm thinking nothing. Zero, zip, nothing. There's nothing going on. She's a girl. She doesn't believe me, because girls cannot think nothing. That never happens ever. When her mind is blank, there's still billions of calculations flying through it, angles being considered, thoughts being processed, organized, schedules being coordinated, colors being aligned. She's like a 4 gigahertz, 256 terabyte file serving computer. I'm like that little solar calculator that comes free with cigarettes. And they still spend time with other guys, right? Me and the guys will go out, guys have coffee. Never once have I ever said, hey, Al, what you thinking? Because I don't care. Plus, I know what he's thinking. He's a guy. Does this ever happen to anybody else on any of you other relationship guys? Saturday morning, I'm minding my own business on my way out to mow the yard or something, and she'll stop me. Are you going to wear that outside? I'm just going to mow. What's the big deal? Look at your shirt. Look at your pants. Look at those socks. I don't want the neighbors to see you looking like that. Sunday, I come out the same door on the way to church. She stops me again to appraise her outfit. Okay, sweetheart, how do I look? I am not qualified to dress myself. Why are you setting me up? So many things that we expect of each other. We just expect each other to know what we need, to know what we think, to know how we feel, you know. And when it doesn't come true, there's disappointment and there's disillusionment. Maybe this marriage, maybe this relationship is a mistake. Maybe we should have never made this happen. You know, I got a lot of friends that do that. You know, we tried, John. We tried. We tried to make it work, but you know what we discovered? We discovered that we were two different people. No kidding. That's kind of the point, isn't it? If you were exactly the same, one of you would be unnecessary. And guys, it would be you. I can make this relationship work without you. I know, I believe. I'm sure we can. Marriage is tough. Families are tough. Relationships are tough, but only if you have the idea that they're tough. If you have the idea that it's an adventure, and if you have the idea that it's going to be fun, and you're going to learn things at the end of it, then it's not tough. We've got the wrong idea in this culture. You know, we keep expecting the other person to fulfill us. We kept expecting the other person to make us complete in some way. They're just as messed up as we are. They can't even figure out what they're supposed to do for themselves. They can't possibly figure out what they're supposed to do for you. You know, we've got people who are surprised by that. Marriage is so hard. I got friends. Marriage is just so tough. You know, it's just so tough being married. Yeah, if it was easy, you wouldn't have to take a vow to keep doing it until one of you died. That should tip you off right at the front of the church. Do you promise for the rest of your life? Wait, what? What do you know that I don't? But it can be really, really fun if you understand that going into it, there's going to be some hardship, there's going to be some friction, there are going to be some stories. Stories are what everybody wants to hear. We want to see you fall down the stairs. We don't want to see you get a trophy. You know? So when you're going through those stories, think about it. Think about this. It's going to be great. This is going to be the story that I can tell at church, at club, at work. You know, I can't wait to get out and show everybody how much stupidity is at the root of this relationship. My wife and I have a number of stories that I promise you, when the story was unfolding, it was not the least bit funny. That's when you have to have a little bit of discernment. You have to go, okay, I'll keep my mouth shut and laugh later. We had 4 children, and some of you, by show of hands, how many of you have more than one child? Okay. All right, so these are the people that I'm talking to. If you only have one child, if you want to call yourself a parent, that's fine. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to fight with you about that now. But the people who have got more than one child will understand what I'm talking about when I talk about Timothy, our second-born, who was that child. You know, if you got more than one, if you got a child, then you say, well, we have a child. But if you have more than one child, then you refer to one of them as that child. You know that child? You know, he's that child. He's the child who inspires you to start watching CSI to see if there's some way that you can tamper with the evidence and get away with it. That's what that child was. That child is the child who would have been an only child had he been born first. Now, I didn't used to tell this story from stage, but as I traveled around to Muncie and other places, I would have conversations with people just like you, regular salt-of-the-earth people, who would tell me about that child. And I came to realize that there is a whole bunch of people out there who have families and relationships who have a child like our Timothy. And so I'm telling you this story to give you hope. Some of you are deciding whether or not you're going to let that child live to see tomorrow. And I'm telling you that Timothy is still alive today. He's 28 years old. I can let you call him afterwards if you want to hear his voice for proof of life. The story that I'm going to tell you is one of hundreds and hundreds of stories that I could tell you. But this will give you an encapsulation, a little snippet of what it was like to raise that child, and how wonderful it is now that we've gone through it. All right? When Timothy was 4 years old, my wife made a sound in the basement. It wasn't a human sound. It was more primal. It was kind of a guttural, sort of a...
Timothy John Robert Branyan.
Now, Robert Branyan is not even part of his name. That is my middle name. Named after my father, who was named after his father. So my son, at age 4, could incite such rage in his mother that 3 generations of Branyan men got in trouble simultaneously. This generational rage that he... So, Timothy and I both come running down the stairs because we're not sure which one of us is in trouble. And my wife is holding in her hand a measuring cup full of white sludge. And she's shaking it in his face. She's like, I don't know what to do with you. I don't know how you think of these things. I can't turn my back on you for a second. You put packing chips in the fabric softener, didn't you? We had a box of biodegradable packing chips in the basement, the kind that when you get them wet, they just dissolve. Timothy had evidently taken those packing chips and put them into the fabric softener bottle. So when she added the fabric softener to the laundry, it was like dumping glue all over there. She lost her mind. She goes, I don't know what to do with you. I don't know how you think of these things. You go sit on that couch and you do not move until I tell you to. So Timothy's crying. He's hysterical. He's, kids cry so hard they can't. So he goes and sits on the couch. And then Lori starts banging stuff around because that's what moms do when they want to let everybody know that they've had it. She opens up the cabinet, she pulls out another bottle of fabric softener, she cranks the lid off, she looks inside, And she says to Timothy, I'm surprised you didn't put packing chips in this one too. And Timothy says, I couldn't get the cap off. Now, do you think I laughed right there? No. I went upstairs. Because I care about the relationship. Sometimes caring about the relationship means that you don't do what you would like to do. We have a couple of, I was reading an article in a magazine, so I don't remember what magazine it was, and even if I could remember it, I probably wouldn't tell you what it was because I think it was a woman's magazine. I don't remember whether it was Woman's Day or Cosmo. It's one of those. Doesn't really matter, does it? Just knowing that it was one of those, you kind of think a little less of me now. But the idea was that this author was talking about how women, in this case, shouldn't be doormats. That a relationship it's not about being a doormat, and you are nobody's doormat. And just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean that you should be a doormat. We should not allow ourselves to be doormats. And my thought was, what's your problem with doormats? I mean, what do you got against doormats? I have one. And what the doormat does is it keeps all of the nice carpeting inside from getting all crudted up with the stuff on people's shoes, right? A doormat actually, if we have the right idea about a doormat, the doormat should be what we show company first when they come over. You know, when they come in on the porch, before we open the door to let them see our wall-to-wall shag carpeting in all of its illustrious cleanliness, we should say, I need to stop you right there. What do you think of that doormat? Look at it. Look at that. That's mud, and that's dog manure, and that's some grass, and I'm not sure what that is. That looks like some sort of a bird part. But you hold up the doormat and see all of the crud, and all of the gunk, and all of the yuck, and all of the stains all over that doormat. And you know what that means? That all of that stuff is not on the carpeting. You got a doormat to thank for that. It's actually a noble item to be a doormat. Because a doormat is what allows the stuffy, uppity carpeting to take a bow. Nobody ever puts a picture of the doormat in Vanity Fair or Better Homes and Gardens. But they probably should. If you think this carpeting is great, we owe it all to this doormat. And relationships are a lot like wall-to-wall carpeting, I think. You know, the relationship, if you've got the right idea about it, you both have the same sort of idea about the carpeting, right? Doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. Doesn't matter whether you're a child in the relationship. Everybody in the family, everybody in the relationship, their job is to kind of keep the carpeting nice. But in order to do that, there needs to be a doormat. Somebody's got to absorb all the crud for the good of the relationship. So if our marriages, if our relationships are the carpeting, somebody needs to be the doormat. But you know what? It's not written anywhere that you can't have two doormats. You can have two doormats. In fact, if you really value the carpet, then you should have two doormats. That means that nobody should feel like they're lesser than the other. If somebody needs to wipe their feet on you for the good of the relationship, how is that a bad thing? How is that something you should be ashamed of? How is that not something that should make us feel kind of special? You know, because a doormat has a whole different characteristics than the carpeting that we take our shoes off and walk barefoot on. You know, doormats are kind of scratchy. Doormats are tough. Doormats are resilient. Doormats, you just hose them off and they're ready to go again. You know, they never hold a grudge. You never seen a doormat hold a grudge, have you? Have you? Because you probably should lay off the alcohol. My point is that there's no shame. There's no shame in taking a hit for the good of the relationship. That's what relationships are. That's what separates the people in your home from the people at the post office. That's what separates the people in your home from the people that you pass on the streets. There's some investment there. And you have given of yourself. You have allowed these people who you love to abuse you for the good of the relationship. That's kind of what we signed up for, isn't it? I mean, you remember when we took our vows and until death do us part. Yeah. For better, for worse, but we don't really think about worse. We don't really think about worse. We're like, yeah, if worse happens, probably won't, but if it does, I'll be ready to go. Worse is going to happen. Worse is going to happen. And if you know that going in and you go, you know what, I'm going to be the person who takes the worst. I'm going to take my fair share of the worst. In fact, I'm going to take more than my fair share of the worst. That's when relationships really become beautiful. When you both decide that you're going to be a doormat, and now you're fighting for who gets to be closest to the door. It's like, oh no, you're not taking that dog poop, I'm taking that dog poop. No, I'm taking that. And you fight for who's going to be covered with the most gook. That's when relationships really, really flourish. And the other thing that you will discover is that far from feeling lonely or dejected, or far from feeling like you're lesser than the other person, you'll suddenly have all of these great stories. All of these great stories that everybody wants to hear. About the time that things went really sideways. About the time things really fell apart. And you were there, together, going through it. Maybe arguing about it, maybe fighting about it. That's all part of the story too. But at the end of it, you leave all the stuff behind. You leave all the stuff out on the front porch, on the doormat, for the good of the relationship. We have another little issue in culture that I'll cover, and then I'll stop, because I know I got a million things to do in Warsaw tonight. Friday night, Warsaw, Indiana. Take that, Muncie. We have a culture that has kind of lost its way. Doesn't think that it needs a savior anymore. The church has found itself in a position of irrelevance now, because we're talking to a culture and telling them, hey, you know what? You have a savior. And they would say, what do I need a savior for? There's nothing wrong with me. I was born perfect. That's the message of culture. You're on the right track, baby. You were born this way. And good for you for not getting that Lady Gaga reference. We were all born different than we are today. You're really gonna hang your hat on "I was born this way"? Because none of us were born potty trained. You can't just stay that way your whole life. That makes for really awkward board meetings when you're, hey, don't judge. I was born doing this. We got to grow up, right? We got to grow up. That's the other key to a relationship. It takes adults. It takes grown-up people owning their responsibilities. We have a culture that doesn't believe in that doesn't go along with that, and we have a culture that doesn't take responsibility for that. We can't be those people. We have to take responsibility for who we are, and we have to be willing to give of ourselves, even if it's not convenient, even if it's not something that we want to do. Anybody got anything that they do just because somebody else expects you to do it? Got anything like that? Anything that if you were left by yourself, if you were all alone, and had nobody to account to, you would never do this? Got anything like that? What'd you say? showering. That actually makes perfect sense to me. We don't care when we stink. We just care when other people stink. So, yeah, all right. Anybody else got anything? We got showering out of the way. Anybody got anything? What do you do? Put the toilet seat down. So, okay, put the toilet seat down. That implies that you would still use the toilet. Even if you're all alone. But you would just leave the seat up? Okay, well, I'm not going to fight with you about that. Because I actually kind of have a theory about that. The women use it down all the time, right? And men use it up 50% of the time. And so it really should be on the man to put the seat down, right? Is my logic correct? Of course, the only reason that the man ever raises the seat is because the woman expects him to. So I guess it's a wash. All right, so you would never put the seat down. Anybody else got anything that you do now just because somebody else expects you to do it? Who expects you to shower, by the way? She? Okay. Do you appreciate that he does that? Yeah. Everybody else is living life exactly on your terms. What's that? Pay taxes. You probably wouldn't do that if you were the only person. Yeah. Only person on an island. There would be no reason to pay taxes, I suppose. But. All right. So who expects you to pay taxes?
The government.
All right. So we do things. Anybody else? Anything that you would never do that you're doing just because somebody else expects you to do it? What's that?
Go to work.
Go to work. Who expects you to go to work? Who are you pointing at? You pointing at him? He drives you out the door every morning to... Are you doing anything that because she expects you to do it? We'll get back to you. Mine is flossing. I would never floss, ever. Except it's super important to my dental hygienist, and she's always going to grill me about it, I know. I get in there and she's, are you using your floss, John? Are you using your floss? It's so important. Are you using your floss? It's so important. I'm like, yes, I'm using floss. I don't tell her to cut cake. She's always going to give me a hard time about it. It's so important, John. You got to get way down in between those teeth, way down in between. Like, that's the reason I don't use it, because I don't know how floss works. Oh, between the teeth. I've been looping it over this ear and just sawing back and forth. So much blood. My dentist has an instructional DVD. I'm not kidding. Has an instructional DVD that he loads to his patients that tells them how to floss.
It's so important.
Are you a hygienist?
Yes.
I'm getting heckled by a hygienist. Again, yeah. Again with the hygienist. So it is important. Do you guys have a DVD that you loan to your patients?
I'm retired.
What's that?
I'm retired.
You're retired. So why are you giving me so much? Why are you giving me a hard time? Why do you care? You're retired. You just care about my teeth?
Your gums.
You care about my gums. See how they are? That's why I do it. That's why I just say yes, I'm using it, because I don't need this. Every 6 months, I get this every 6 months, and now this. Yeah. So my dentist also, remember 100 years ago when I was talking about my dentist DVD? He has a DVD that tells people how to floss. It's an instructional. If you need an instructional DVD to tell you how to operate floss, I will bet that you don't know how to work a DVD player. Levels of complexity are vast. All right. And I've also decided that I need to work on my vocabulary because I don't feel like I know a lot of. Nobody ever gets that joke. Don't worry about it. We're small. Yeah, I did some research and I discovered that Shakespeare, that our vocabulary is dropping in the West. That we are using less and less. We have less and less words in our active vocabulary. Shakespeare had 54,000 words in his active vocabulary. Today, in the United States, you and me, we have about 3,000 words in our vocabulary. Which is why when we read Shakespeare, we're lost. We're like, what light wither through whereupon breaketh. Man, just put in a DVD. Put in that flossing DVD again. I don't pay the cable bill so you kids can sit there and read. And I started thinking about little kids in the 16th century. Those little kids, all those years ago, probably had a bigger vocabulary as children than I have now as an adult because they were just exposed to that language. Which means I am not smart enough to read fairy tales to 16th century children. I couldn't keep up. Can you imagine what a children's book would sound like in that 16th century? It would have been like, in time past, though not long ago, there lived pigs in stature little and number 3, who, being of an age both entitled and inspired to seek their fortune, did set about to do thusly. When they had travelled a distance, pig numbered first spake, saying, "Hearken, brethren, heed this tempestuous realm. Tarry we long from hearth and home, we shall fare, I fear, not well." And so, being collectively agreed, but individually impelled, the diminutive swine set about each to erect for himself an abode. Pig numbered first to construct his house from straw. Pig numbered second did likewise, or rather not from straw, instead from sticks, meanwhile unique in his imagining. Pig numbered 3 did erect as his domicile, stalwart and garish, a structure made from brick entirely. Ah, but soon there happened along, as is frequently the scenario in classic tale of protagonist pig or red-hooded child. A wolf, carnivorous nature in full season, he called out to the straw-ensconced swine, saying, "Pray thee, little pig, grant me entrance." But pig 1 recalled with sage foreboding that he is mad who trusts in the tameness of a belly-pinched wolf, and responded immediately, "Nay, it shall not be, indeed not by wit or whiskered jowl." To this most expected response, the wolf replied immediately, "Then steel thyself, little pig. Forthwith shall I endeavor, employing means both huffing and puffing, to dismantle yon flippant flaxen fortress." Whereupon there issued forth from the wolf an exhale of gale proportions, that quickly rendered straw hovel to dregs and dross, and carried aloft piglet and shattered quarters both. Exposed now to claw and fang, piglet 1 made haste, wolf in pursuit, to the stick-festooned sanctum of peccary secondary. Causing pig 2 to cry out in dismay, "Well, this knots my knickers!" Marshalling a feral wolf to my doorstep is nowhere among those endeavors amenable or congenial. "1,000 pardons," begged 1. "It would seem the beast's baneful breath hath purged me of home and sound judgment alike." The malevolent blast of the wolf's exhale splattered second swine shack and short his sanctimonious scolding simultaneously. "Lo and behold," squealed 2, "stand we now amid wooden wreckage, tremulous and vulnerable, with nary a strategy for eschewing the canine devourer strategy, exclaimed one, while 'tis noble the contemplation of tactical particularities, pressed as we are with time restraints forbidding detailed strategical conversation, I would urge we run. Indiana people are always a lot more judgmental of my pig sound. Swine snobs. Whether by their own fleet-footed competence or the wolf's windless attitude, the bantam porkers arrived at their ultimate kindred neighbors, inexpugnable brick ingress unscathed. Upon the third pig's door with urgent hooves they pounded, calling out, "Unbar this entrance, and with haste we beseech thee!" The third pig hailed from the American colonies, possessing a vocabulary substantially less robust than his impromptu visitors, replied, "Say what?" "Seek we sanctuary," they implored, on the verge of hysteria, "lest we fall forthwith to the ravenous appetency of yonder approaching carnivore." Still confounded by their importunate words, Big Three did render ajar his portal, whereupon one and two spilled through and collapsed beyond his threshold, enervated. "So y'all just wanted to come in? Why didn't you just say that?" Hiss of the wolf could be heard. "Pray thee, pigs, grant me entrance." "The wolf," said one and two. "Wolf," said three. "What do you suppose he wants?" "He seeks to gain purchase within. Indeed, he would occupy this very alcove, for he but afforded the most meager of opportunity." Right. I'm just going to go ask him what he wants. "Under no circumstances," squealed two, flinging self against portal. "There is naught to be gained accosting external opponents save our own immediate demise." "What did you say about my mama?" House and occupants were again engulfed in a malevolent blast of wolfish wind. The foundation shook, the frame rattled, and lo, to the astonished eyes of piglets and encroaching scoundrel alike stood the third pig's lodging undaunted. Aghast and befuddled, two queried of three, "How does, against such relentless and torrential onslaught, this domicile endure?" Pig three puffed out chest, tapped a hoof to the hearth, and responded, "It's American made." Gotta go. I don't have anything funnier than that. I'm on Twitter and Facebook. We talked about that. You guys hate that. Hate this table. But if you're on Twitter and Facebook, you want to follow me, you can send me messages and stuff. I try to respond when I see them. I don't understand Facebook, so a lot of times there's messages in there that are like 3 years old, and I'm just now seeing them. So thank you for the congratulations on my granddaughter. She's 6 now. Just now getting around to those. But I try to send out things on Twitter that are funny. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't. I send out stuff like, I think the Goo Goo Dolls and Lady Gaga should tour together as Goo Goo Gaga. Reaching into a pair of pants and finding money is a great feeling until the person wearing the pants screams at you. So, stuff like that. Also out there, I've got some DVDs and some books. The DVDs are mostly bootleg copies of Star Wars. I got a great seat. Get those. It's more stand-up. If you thought this was funny and you want to see some more material, then you can get those. If you didn't think this was funny, then you should not get those DVDs because it's not going to get any better. More the same. The books are the try and tell diminutive swine, as Ben was talking about. So to illustrate, it's the whole three little pig story that I just told in case you missed a word or two. It's written down, and there's pictures in case you don't read good. What's that? A DVD? Yeah, I don't know. The bass player just said something to me and I lost it. So I'm done. Thanks so much. You guys enjoy your relationships. You know, don't fight to be format. And laugh off.
As you can tell, I am much better with a saxophone or a bass in my hand. But just a few closing remarks. Thank you guys for doing this. This is absolutely amazing. None of this would have happened without you being here, so I appreciate that. See here, my notes, because I don't talk good. Just a few more things. If you guys are looking for a family to laugh with, thanks John for that, to cry with, or to go through life with, this is the place to be. We love on people, and I've been to several different churches over my lifetime, short lifetime, some of you will say, short lifetime. And this is a church that just loves on people. It doesn't matter whether you're hurting, whether you need to just help with your walk, or if you don't have any faith at all. This is the place to check out, and we have a lot to offer. So you can talk to me about it, Pastor Andrew, who's back there, Eric Oman, our senior pastor. We would love to talk to you about anything about that. So as we close, I would actually like to have my guys come back up, because I heard someone wanted to dance over here, right? So we're going to give you about another 10-15 minutes of music worthy of dancing to. So, with this call out, I'm holding these guys longer than I anticipated, so I better see people out here dancing. So I'm calling you out, those people over here that were dancing. But before we close, as these guys are coming up, I'd like to end in a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you very much for this evening. Thank you for all the volunteers who have made this night possible. Thank you for giving us the gift of laughter with John Branyan. And thank you for all the helpers, all the volunteers that are here tonight working with the kids in the kitchen, serving, and all the decorations. None of this would be possible without you. So thank you for that. Thank you for everyone here. And as we close and as we play these guys out, that they will have, pray that they will have a safe trip home, and that in the next coming days they'll think about what John said. And if they're interested, come on back to the church and ask their questions. We would love to answer them. And but we can't do that without your power, Lord. Thank you for that, and in your name, amen.